Welcome, everyone. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. Nice to see all your faces. If anyone from the public would like to speak tonight, please complete one of the green comment cards available on the back of the table, at the back of the room, and give it to our board clerk, Miss Rose, in the pretty pink. There is also a list of reminders regarding the rules for public participation on that back table. Please review those prior to commenting. We have some guests here from the AMVETS that would like to make a donation to the JROTC. Excuse me. Colonel Smith is here to accept the donation. Yes.
What do you want us to do?
Well,
Let's do this.
Go right up to the microphone. That way we're videoing this for live streaming, so people can hear who you're presenting in honor of.
yes, if you could talk into the microphone.
To the microphone.
I'm the commander of Post 5, AMVETS Post 5. My name's Mark Cook. On behalf of AMVETS Post 5, we'd like to donate $500 to the junior ROTC.
In memory of Alex Montgomery, right?
Yes.
Okay. Alex Montgomery's mom was here, family's here.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Now I want to say something. I know her biggest fear is her daughter's going to be forgotten in this program. And she made a big impact on the program. Kids still know her, love her. I just wanted to reassure her of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you want a picture? Or? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. While you're here,
come up and we can get a picture of you guys.
Could we get a picture in the? I'm sorry. If you, yeah.
There in the background.
Yeah, we'll just be in the background so you guys can stand and face that way. We'll just be behind you. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll have our consent agenda this evening. Item 25-153, minutes of the executive session held on July 22nd, 2025. 25-154, minutes of the regular meeting held on July 22nd, 2025. 25-155, personnel report. 25-156, expenditure approval list. 25-157, acceptance of donations. 25-158, field trip, JROTC overnight, Fort Knox, Kentucky. 25-159, sale of iPads. 25-160, resolution, micro purchase thresholds for the use of federal funds. Do we have any members of the public who are here to speak on these? Thank you. We'll ask for a recommendation from Superintendent Lockwood.
President Salamo, I recommend that the board approve with one motion and one vote the consent agenda items 25-153 through 25-160 as presented.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board? Okay, we can have the roll.
Okay, Mr. Delgado,
Aye.
Mrs. Gold,
Aye.
Mr. Griffin,
Aye.
Mr. Beck,
Aye.
Ms. Salamo.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Discussion item 25-161, Europe trip with Indiana Ambassadors of Music Marching Giants. At this time, I would like to invite our choir director, Ms. Huff, and director of bands, Mr. Huff, to discuss the Europe trip and the Marching Giants.
If you were on the trip with us, could you come up here too? I promised to not make them talk, but I told them I had.
We like to see your beautiful faces.
Yeah, they want to kind of stand around. Great. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to our experiences. We could probably talk for hours about how great this trip was and how influential it was in really all of our lives, but here's the most important stuff. A little while back, our trip has been organized for several years now, probably I think 11 or 12 years, by the Ambassadors of Music, which is a national program that coordinates multiple trips for each state involved throughout the summer. Our trip happened this past summer from June 18th through July 3rd. Before COVID, or shortly after COVID, we had a Circle the State with Song Festival here, and our clinician was Mr. Dan Borns from Greenwood. After he saw the things that were happening here in our school district, he reached out to me and he said, your students need to be on this trip. Shortly after that, we were hosting the Grant County Honor Band, and the clinician there was Dr. Joseph Scagnoli. He was also the coordinator of our Indiana Ambassadors of Music trip. So because we hosted those two events here, we made those connections with people across the state who were involved in this trip, and then reached out to Mr. Huff and I to nominate students. So that's how this all got started. The first time that we nominated students for a trip, I was the only one that nominated. I nominated 4, and the only one that went was Zoe Wayman. And the whole time that she was on the trip that summer, I watched her progress and her journey on Facebook, and I kicked myself the whole time that I didn't go myself and I didn't nominate more kids to come with me. So I went home and I told my husband, we're not doing that again. We're gonna get more people next time. And so this time, as we got more information, we learned that Dr. Scagnoli was the trip coordinator, and he wanted Josh and I to both be on staff as he found out we were going to plan to be on the trip with our students. We hosted an area meeting for the ambassadors. We invited 20 band students and 20 choir students and their families that we had nominated to go on the trip, letting them make the decision on whether or not they would commit to going with us. We ended up with 15 students and 7 adults, which was one of the larger representations from any of the schools there on the trip. We traveled to England, France, Switzerland, Germany, and Austria, experiencing transportation by plane, bus, train, boat, funicular, and cable car. Our students experienced many famous locations. In England, Buckingham Palace, Big Ben, and the Tower of London, where they were able to watch and see the crown jewels. In Paris, the Louvre, where they saw the Mona Lisa and spent a day and around the Eiffel Tower. In Switzerland, we saw the Matterhorn in the Alps. In Germany, the Dachau concentration camp. And in Austria, we saw Mozart's birthplace and childhood home. In each country, our students performed a concert with the band and the choir, all in historic locations. Several of our students were section leaders, representing us well by performing solos within the band and the choir pieces. We experienced over and over the unity that music can create across language barriers and in different cultures, and the positivity and the hope that it brings to all of us. We walked 64.6 miles in that 2 weeks. Throughout our time there, we learned that our transportation here, we are very spoiled by. We learned to appreciate things even more that we really missed while we were away, such as air conditioning, ice, root beer, sweet tea, and probably lots of other things. We want to thank you for supporting our trip as we went on this journey together. Thank you for allowing our band and our choir programs to host things like Circle the State and Grant County Honor Band. Without events like these, we might not have gotten the email to ask if we could be involved. So we're really grateful that we have that support from all of you and from our community. Thank you for allowing us to go to professional development conferences so we can make connections like this and talk to people and learn about other people in our field that are passionate like we are about what we do. We appreciate your dedication to our arts programs and our drive to keep making Marion one of the best music programs in our state. And just to introduce you to these students, this is Manny Trejo. He's a trumpet player. He was in the band and he was the section leader and played a solo. This is Hannah Huff. She sang in the choir. Actually was one of the only first sopranos in the choir this year. This is Antonio Cruz. He was in the percussion section and his sister Leah Cruz was in the choir. This is Micah Hawkins, also was in the choir. This is Dakota Daly. She was one of the clarinet players. And this is Audrey also, who was in the choir. And they were just the most wonderful representations of our school district, and we had a really good time together. So, and I would just love to go again and take more kids if there's ever the opportunity. So that's what my goal is, but I hope you guys had a great time. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to say thanks real quick because you guys, I believe, sang in the chapel in Switzerland in some castle.
In a
It sounds like a
castle.
fairy tale. And when I listen to it, it sounds like a fairy tale. And kid you not, there have been some rough days I've had in the last few months, a couple months, and I pulled that clip up because I was like, Lord bless you and keep you. And it was very moving. I imagine it was a very cool experience, especially that particular one. So it was fun to share that with you guys. So thank you.
Thank you all. That's awesome. Yes.
Don't leave, man, come back, Aaliyah, come back. Pastor Mark, walk up here, who else is up here? Caleb, walk up here, you can come here now. You missed the hero part, you get to be part of the band again. I think that's everybody. Huh? Antonio, come back up here. Dakota's up here, yeah. Okay. I'll get it all right eventually. Well, good evening. I guess it is evening. I was asked to talk about our marching band season this year, which was really quick and really short, but really jam-packed and really successful, which is a good thing. Our show title this year was Milkshakes and Heartbreaks. It was a 50s diner show, and we took kind of the Grease approach to it. So there was some teenage drama, which is not even uncommon if you teach in the schools, and that's what we had. We don't, well, no, I'll leave that alone. But I do want to say a couple things, and then I'll give to the success. We had community-supported costumes, so instead of wearing our traditional marching band uniforms, we wanted to put the kids in traditional, make them look like they're in the 50s. So we had jeans and black shirts for 90% of them, and then the others had white shirts on, and the color guard all had poodle skirts. So that was about $1,600 extra expense that we normally don't have, but we raised it all through donations. Our community and people literally across the country donated to that, which was really nice. Facebook's a wonderful thing, by the way. We had community sponsorships that totaled $4,025 this year just for the marching bands, the most we've had in the 5 or 6 years we've done the sponsorship program. And then all meals that we ate, well, the kids ate throughout the year was donated by either food trucks or area restaurants and stuff. So all that took care of a lot of expenses for our kids, which makes us the only marching band in our circuit and probably in the state of Indiana that doesn't charge a dime for our students to be a part of.
It's huge.
It causes me gray hair, and I haven't ended up in Mr. Mealy's office yet, so that's good. But it does create a unique environment for our children. We were scheduled to compete at 3 contests prior to the state fair, and then Mother Nature decided to downpour on my staff after the contest that got rained out, and so we were already there ready to go. That was Winchester, but before that, we went to Muncie. We were back with just 5 rehearsals and finished 14th out of 23 bands, and Anderson, we finished 9th out of 23 bands, and then went to the state fair. There were 34 bands, and we finished 12th, both in the prelims and then 12th in the finals as well. There were 62 students involved, 7 staff members, and countless parents, several of which are sitting back there. And they did whatever, build props, design props, get the meals, take pictures. They did it. They did everything. I just show up and wave my arms and hope it all works out right. And I want to feature just a couple of students. First off, let me do my son, who was on the Europe trip, but he also had to pinch hit for our sound guy a couple of times. And so I do want to thank him for, he graduated just a couple months ago, and tomorrow goes to Ball State. So, yeah, chirp, y'all are crazy. I don't have any degrees from Ball State. So I do want to thank him for stepping in at the last minute. And then Manny you already met, but Manny had a solo in our show. I'll get to Hannah in a second. Skylar, Aaliyah, Esteban, and Hannah were all involved in a teenage drama. That was a whole new ball game. But Skylar was one of the female characters, obviously. Aaliyah was the main girlfriend at the beginning. And Esteban here had 3 different girlfriends in 4 minutes. Figured that one out. Justin served as our drum major and had a trombone solo. Jaron and Manny had duets in the show. And then Antonio stepped in at the last minute and played drum set for us. And Dakota served as like anything we needed her to do. She taught one of the dance moves that the band did, visual moves. She taught it more than once because they kept forgetting it. But she taught it really well the first time, but welcome to teaching. And the cool thing about all of this was none of this show was designed by me. I was given a note that is still on my phone, shared by my daughter, who decided that this is what we were doing.
That's awesome.
And I could take it to the design team and tell them what we were doing, and I said, all right, I'll take it. They'll tell me no. And our design team said yes, and then it went from there, and the whole thing worked out really well. We know the concept works because the concept won state with Anderson doing the exact same show as us. But Anderson had a phenomenal performance the last couple weeks of the season, and they were great. And so congratulations to those guys. I think the cool thing about all of this, the circuit that we do now, there are 5 of our 6 conference schools participate in it. So it's when you do the fall, and I know the Lafayette Jeff band director really well, and he says this all the time. He goes, we're like the only school that looks like us. Like, yeah, don't come to the summer. We don't want to compete against you, but no. You see us. We see our kids in all of the other schools. They all look the same. They all have the same struggles we have. We're in the fall, you're dealing with the Homesteads and the Ben Davises and some of those schools that have just bigger community resources than what we have. But we have something that they don't have, and that's big community hearts and big community support. And I'm the envy of every band director that has to charge for their marching band. And we don't, and we're fortunate for that. And we're successful because of it. I think we're successful because our kids want to be here, and we're successful because marching band is over next Saturday at 2:30. And I will put it away and we'll be done. So thanks for all your support as a board. Thanks for making sure that we have this activity. As Christina said, we know that we want to be successful, and we are grateful that you want us to be successful. So I appreciate you. Congratulations, young people. I'll see you Thursday night for practice. Thanks, everybody.
Mr. and Mrs. Huff, thank you so much for your work. You are very humbly thanking the community, which there's huge, and I know for band parents it is a ton of work, but what you all have done in terms of our music excellence is absolutely outstanding, so thank you both.
I want to thank them too. I went down to the state fair and watched the kids perform in the first round, and just the excitement and all the hard work that they have put together. And I was so proud. It was like I was watching 63 of my own personal children out there performing. They did such an amazing job, and I was so stinking proud of them when they were done. And I was so excited for them. And I told them, you guys need to hold your heads high and just be proud of what you're doing and have fun. That is 90% of it right there. You've got to have fun with what you're doing, and I think you guys displayed that when you were there. So I was very, very proud to be able to be a part of that day.
Great job.
Yeah, what you guys have going as it pertains to choir and band is a well-oiled machine. There's no doubt about it. I get excited about band, and I know very little about band. But what I do see day in and day out is those kids working in that parking lot, working very hard in their uniforms and their outfits when it's 110 degrees out there. And then you got your parents out there that are helping you construct models, and like that type of buy-in is unheard of. I'm amazed every time I see something like that. So I appreciate both of you for what you continue to do, and the bar you guys continue to raise it. And I couldn't be more proud of the band and choir program that we have here in our community schools because of you two.
I too thank you. I was in marching band, so I'm a part of the marching band, but I hear your band because I live close to the high school, so I'm up, they're at it again. So I know those summer practices, so great job. I'm so proud of you guys, and I just love hearing that music. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
I as well would like to congratulate both of you for your performances and your dedication to music in general from Marion schools. I personally know what involvement was in the band, and it takes a lot of hard work, and I appreciate you both. I think you're doing a phenomenal job.
You two know I think you're rock stars.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And you all are welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go. Enjoy your evening.
They're out.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Lots of long nights. So, and our arts program just is in general, music and arts, like it really shows through to signing day, and how many of our kids are going on and using these skills after school is just a testament to Marion Community Schools and how we're investing that way. So. Very nice. 25-162 is our next discussion item, is a back to school video. I would like to introduce our K through 8 curriculum director, Mrs. Aguilar, who will share our back to school video. Hello. Oh yeah. Look at the
She knew her name was going to be on there.
Oh, sorry.
We put together a little video just to kind of give you guys some of the things that we saw the first couple of days that we were back to school. Couldn't figure out a better way to kind of show you the things that we were seeing through the eyes of our students. So it's only about a minute and a half long, but we thought it would be fun instead of somebody standing up here talking, that we could just let you guys witness a video.
I like it. awesome. Thank you.
Just a short little snippet just to see. I think the thing that was one of the most amazing things to me, I felt pretty good. I was able to get into every building the first day of school, so that was great. But people already had their kids up moving around and working on things together and figuring things out. And, you know, there were a lot of happy faces and excited. And I think just people, staff and students, all excited to be back. So I think we had a great start to the school year, and just wanted to share some of the videos or some of the clips that we got.
Absolutely. And once again, I know I've said this before, the buildings look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like really, really great. So thank you. 25-163, transportation update. I would like to introduce our Director of Transportation, Mr. Tinker, who is going to give an update on our transportation. Welcome.
Now, I'm not a rock star in bands and I cannot sing, but hopefully I'm a rock star in transportation moving forward this school year. I know this school year has presented several challenges between routing issues and our line of communication, but I have to say today is Tuesday. All of the students have made it to and from school safely. Our bus drivers are amazing for dealing with the first 2 days of school and the chaos that has caused the community. But we're showing up, we're working hard, and we're in it for the students, and we're here to transport them to and from school safely. That's our goal. And moving forward, I know that I'm currently conducting an audit in our policies as it pertains to our communication, and hopefully moving forward this school year, we can ease up the communication line with the parents and the community, so we won't have any more issues. That's all I have for transportation as of today. But next time around, I'm going to bring some of our amazing drivers around and acknowledge some of our hardworking drivers for the next board meeting.
And I do want to say for Cedric, he's been a great addition to our team and taking over the transportation. We did have, he's being very kind right now. We're working with a new routing system that had a hiccup the night before school, so that was part of our transportation issues. That always causes stress. Transportation is always a difficult thing at the beginning of the year anyway, and then when you add something that you think is really just going to be great, help improve things, and it does just the opposite, it can be a little stressful. I think he handled it with grace and handled it in the best way that he could have. So I do appreciate the patience of the community and working with us as we kind of hiccup through some of those problems. I know many of you got calls and you guys were very gracious with us too, and making sure that we were able to contact all of our parents and get that done. So, you know, we've talked a lot about communication and how that can improve, but I just know under him we'll continue to get better. So I want to say he had a very interesting first year start at the community schools, and you know, you always look at people, and he handled it with that smile and with grace, and probably didn't always feel that way all the time, but it ended up all right. So I appreciate it, so thank you.
You know, just being at the bus hub and interacting with the students kept me sane. I can say that.
Yeah.
Seeing their smiles on the first day of school and seeing them excited to come back, that was refreshing.
Yeah.
So
no, and I know I can't wait for him to come. He's implemented some awards and things with the bus drivers to really show more appreciation for the bus drivers and what they do every day. And you know, we put the safety of the kids in their hands, and I've watched them interact with kids, and they really do care about the kids that get on their bus every day. So I am excited that he's going to be able to highlight our bus drivers throughout the year as well.
That's so nice.
I know sometimes it's not kosher for us to get up here and be on the negative side of things, but this last week has been nothing short of a nightmare from a busing standpoint. With that being said, the fact that you are standing here in front of us today and you've handled it and you've dealt with it and you've worked together, and it hasn't been a matter of blaming and it's not pointing fingers, and you guys worked through it and got the stuff together, and kids are now off and where they need to be, I think says a lot, because sometimes you're going to run through nightmares. As a system, we're all going to sometimes run through it, but it is important to not forget those, because sometimes we're going to run into it, and I know it was tough for a lot of families. That was tough for a lot of you guys as well. I'm sure coming in your first year, you were probably about ready to throw in the towel, but you didn't, and I appreciate that. And Kyle and cakewalk, but I particularly appreciate you guys getting on it and just taking care of it. It's not always going to go great all of the time. In all aspects, you're going to have problems, but I appreciate you just working through the problems and solving it. I appreciate you, Mr. Rose. You single-handedly solved several problems for me directly in that, and I know that's not necessarily your role, but I particularly want to say thank you to you as well. So, but good luck. Thanks.
I just have one small question. So we were able to identify what the problem was, and we're able to prevent that going forward as it pertains to start of school next year. We won't run into the same problems, correct?
Not for next school year, absolutely not. No.
I asked that is because there were obviously phone calls that we all fielded, and you know how people are over social media.
Yeah.
But it seems like every year transportation is an issue, and like Alan said, it's not always going to go off without a hitch. You're going to have hiccups. I completely understand that. But I just wanted to make sure that we were able to identify the problem, and we won't run into this next year.
Yeah, that is correct. We are aware of the issue, and next school year will not be the same as this school year. I can guarantee that. And the one spotlight I do want to share, I know I acknowledge our bus drivers and our bus aides for working hard, our office staff, but I do want to take time to acknowledge the amazing principals who have worked through the chaos and the amazing office staff in each building, because I know they receive a lot of phone calls and backlash as well. So they have done an amazing job of working together to make sure we're transporting students. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay, so action items tonight, we have 25-164, permission to advertise the 2026 budget. I'd like to introduce our CFO, Kyle Mealy, who will present the 2026 budget.
Good evening. I really thought everybody was going to stick around for the budget presentation. So I thought that's why the crowd was here, but it's not. So get a lot of information out about our proposed 2026 budget for the board and also for our public to see. We'll go through some things about school finance, and every time, I will say this, every time you think you're starting to get a grasp on school finance, the legislators will change it on you a little bit and put a little wrinkle in there, but we'll get through it as best we can. So we'll start off with talking about the four major funds. Some of you may be well versed in this, others you might not. But obviously we have four major funds. The two biggest are your education and your operations, and those are represented by the two larger buckets there that the money flows into. And then your two smaller ones are your debt service fund and your rainy day fund. We're going to break those down, talk a little bit about how those are funded and where the money, where your local property taxes go based off of where your state support comes from and which fund it goes into. Breaking down the education fund for you, on the left you'll see the expenditures in a little donut graph there and kind of show you how the entire education fund is broken out, but 71% of that is spent on instructional staff. So that could be your teachers and anybody that is in front of a student in any instructional way. That's how much of your education fund is utilized for that. As you break it all down, you have about 14% that is utilized for administration. You've got about 2.3% in supplies. That little sliver of light gray in there, right above the black, is your ECA coaches, and it runs just about 2% as well. And then your special programs can be your high ability plus your special education programming, and that runs just under 9%. Actually just under 8.5% of your expenditures in your education fund. And then curricular materials, you have about 1.7%. Now the total bucket of money can range somewhere in the line of almost $29 million. So that kind of shows you how that bucket of money is spent throughout. And on the right-hand side, it even breaks that down even more into what you appropriate those funds in detail for. So teachers and instructional assistants, we spoke about supplies like software equipment, special programs, that's your CTE, gifted and talented, special education, summer school, remediation, English as a second, your ELL, your English second language, supplies, testing materials, equipment, don't forget GRCC, Height, Kenwell, and CSA. Support services like curriculum development, guidance counseling, nurses, speech pathology, homeschool coordinators, library. Supplies and books, your principal's office, that means not only your principals, but their supplies and their secretaries. And extracurricular, this is where your coaching stipends do come from, as we mentioned. And then textbook adoption and curricular material. Now, something new this year is that before, curricular materials were pulled out, and you can see that fund. That is now in your basic grant. So every student has an amount of money that the state gives us per kid. Your curricular materials are in that. And this is the first year of that. So that's something we have to think about as that basic grant money comes in and you see a large state tuition. Well, there's about $400,000 in there for that would be textbook or curricular materials. Because remember, it's been a few years now that we no longer get textbook. So that's your education fund, just breaking it down for you. Operations fund. Now, when we get further into this, we'll talk about how it's funded, but we're talking about what do we actually pay out of this. And again, you're looking at operational salaries at about 59%. Utilities run about 13.8%. Your capital projects run about 4.8%. Supplies are 3.6%. Technology is 3.4%. Your bus purchases are 4.8%. And insurance runs about 10%. And then again, listed over there, breaks out the details of those where you've got school board, school resource officers, transportation, all your directors, assistant drivers, and monitors, all your repairs, your supplies, your equipment, tires, gas, any bus replacement, purchases of buses, capital projects we mentioned, technology, all your building and ground improvements and construction, repair equipment, the superintendent and the superintendent office, along with HR, human resource, and the business office, and utilities and property insurance and custodial maintenance, and then any of your technology staffing and their administration and their implementation. So that's your operations. The easiest way to think about it is, if it goes into a classroom in front of a kid, it should come out of education. If it's to maintain your buildings and run what would be operating your buildings, operating your programs, it should come out of operations. That's how you break those two buckets up.
What's the generic price tag on our operation fund?
Our operation fund,
give or take. Sorry, I put you on the spot.
I got it here in a minute. Let me look real quick. I don't want to say something wrong, and then at the end of it, I'll be like, wait a minute, he said something different. About 12 million.
Okay.
Debt service fund. And this is an interesting one if you've, especially when you're talking to the public. Debt is usually considered bad. In school, though, you have a debt service fund where you can bond and go in what would be considered debt and have debt payments. But that was really the only way for a lot of school districts to fund some of the major projects and major facility improvements. Now we're getting into bus purchases when you have buses that are ranging at $200,000 a bus. So these costs are getting outside of what we can collect in property taxes. And so we go after bonds, which is another way to then collect that money and get those payments out. So the primary uses of those are to pay your principal and your interest on your lease agreements and your general obligation bonds. So we have both lease rental bonds and we have general obligation bonds. I'm not going to go into the weeds on all of that because they can take a lot of time to break that down. But those are two different sets of bonds that you can get. The funding is derived mainly from dedicated local property tax levies. So your local property taxes fund your debt service. And it is separate from your operating revenues, so it's collected separately. Expenditures are limited to debt-related purposes defined by your Indiana code or your legislative law. So what do we have the details for? What are we appropriating our funds to make our lease payments, to make our general obligation bond payments, and if we have any anticipated debt. And so in our school district, one thing a lot of people don't understand, and it's okay, it's kind of common, is Marion Community Schools loses a large amount of money to the circuit breaker and the tax caps. And by a large amount of money, we're talking anywhere from $2.5 to $3.5 million in local property taxes. imagine taking that kind of loss and you're operating. So one way to counter the loss is to go into your debt service fund and create some bond capacity in there and get some revenue in there so that you can counter some of those losses. You take $3.5 million away from our district, and you're talking about if we had that money, we can take care of a lot of our HVAC, we can take care of a lot of our roofing needs. So to counter that, we go out and we get a general obligation bond to help make those repairs. A lot of times it's seen that sometimes bonds are used only for certain things. A lot of people would say athletics. That's not the case. A lot of times it's for things that you don't see: a tuck pointing, a section of roof, and restroom upgrades, things like that not everybody sees. Like they see a new construction or a new athletic facility or something like that. So that's one way that the bonds are utilized here at Marion, is to offset circuit breaker losses.
Well, because we're disproportionately, we are impacted much more than most school districts in the state.
You are one of the largest impacted, coming from this being my 4th district, you are one of the most impacted circuit breaker districts that I've seen in East Central Indiana.
Yes. Yeah.
It is very, I think, because if you don't deal with this for like I do, all day, every day, you wouldn't have any idea what that means. But just imagine losing $3.5 million that should be going to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Every year. And just keep running that
tab
since 2008.
Yes. Yeah.
The problem we have with Marion Community Schools is the same. There's about 30 school systems in the state of Indiana that deal with this being a huge portion of the loss.
Yeah.
And when there's only 30 school systems out of 190 school systems or something like that in the state of Indiana,
we're not
you don't have a large enough voice to have the legislators change policy on the circuit breaker and losing that kind of money. Because not only are we losing $2.5 to $3.5 million this year on that, we lost that much last year, and we lost 90% of that the year before, and 90% of that the year before. So if you put that over the last decade, we've probably lost $20 million. Think what $20 million can do for a school system like ours. So it's unfortunate. Every year I say I'm going to gather groups together from those 30 school systems and try to make a larger voice, but it's just a huge astronomical undertaking.
It is.
And oftentimes in the state of Indiana, you're still going to go unheard.
And they had some proposals that would maybe help those of us who were highest impacted, and those just kind of fade in the wind. But
you lose more in circuit breaker losses in 1 year than the other county schools combined in almost 2 years.
It's wild. Yeah,
for sure. So, rainy day fund is a fund that personally I try to stay away from it as much as possible. It's exactly what it is. It's squirreling some money away for a rainy day, and it can be viewed a lot differently in different districts. Districts use it, some districts never touch it. Some ways that it could be used now more so than in the past, if you had to dip into it, is again, your bus purchases are getting higher and higher. So you could dip into there if you needed to. And if you do have that situation in your maintenance of buildings where something occurs that you don't have the money for anywhere else, you could dip into this. But it takes a resolution from the board to dip into your rainy day fund. And that's very good because it's very transparent for your community to know, well, there just isn't a fund laying here with $3 million in it and the board gets to go in and out of it as much as possible. No, they have to publicly make a resolution that they're going to take from that and then utilize those funds. But it really serves as a reserve. And it's what it's called for. When the rainy day happens, and you lose a boiler, you lose multiple boilers or chillers, you have a backup. It's also and we have to remember, it's one-time money. So it's not something that's very easily used for any type of salary increase because that money's not going to be there year in and year out. So it's not like that $3 million that sits in there is just going to be $3 million if you spend it the next year. It's not how it works. That rainy day's been built up over good years when you have been able as a board or boards prior to you have been able to move those funds into there, preparing for a shortfall. There could be a year when you do get into a tough situation and you have cuts to make and you need a little buffer on payroll. And you can use it for that one time to get yourself back into there. The other thing you can do is if you have to do a temporary loan and then you want to pay yourself back or pay that loan back. But we're not in that situation. We're in a good spot to keep this nice and healthy and really hope to not have to dip into it too much. But there are no tax dollars that go into this fund. There is no one that actually puts money into this other than the school district taking some money out on the good years and putting it aside for those tough years.
As a fairly new CFO for us, do you feel like we're in a very appropriate amount of rainy day fund compared to our budget?
Yes. You're in a lot better standing with your rainy day fund than several other districts that I'm aware of. You're sitting in there with, I would say, let's just take payroll for instance. You've got yourself set up for a couple of months before you would have to make a drastic decision. I think if there can be a plan for the board as the good years happen, and we'll be very transparent to say, I think we need to move this, but people need to understand the reason you're moving it is not to take money and hide it. You're taking money and you're pushing it into there just to make sure that you can make those payments, those bills. But the biggest key is to make sure you have payroll. But I feel like you're in a good standing now, but it wouldn't hurt as a good year comes along to think about moving more into there.
So you wouldn't say too high?
We've had comments from people that we carry too much in our rainy day fund. You do not feel that's the case of where
I don't, but I'm when it comes to that, I'm on a more conservative side of wanting to have that in there.
Yeah.
Now, I will say as a past union member, as a teacher, I always wanted to see what was in there.
Right.
Because it'd be nice to have some of that money. I'm not gonna look at Stephanie, but it'd be nice to have some of that money. But I think that they're also very understanding of the climate right now. And that's what's nice about our MTA is they understand the climate we're in. I don't think it's too high because I'm always worried about the age of your buildings, the fact that you do lose so much in circuit breaker that some of those one-time costs could be HVAC, could be those things that might get you another 50 years down the road in a one-time cost. Whereas if we give a raise and we take that money out, well, now every year we got to find that money. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Are any of our funds are we in the negative? Are we balanced with all of our funds?
Well, that
Depends on the time
overall
of
you
year.
were in the positive.
Okay.
But to say, if I gave you a fund report today, so I want to be very honest about that. If I gave you a fund report today, you would see that operations can run in the negative, and a lot of your grants can run into the negative, and that is because you only receive your tax draws twice a year. So what you do to help offset that is, because we don't bring in as much property taxes to cover our operations, we do transfer from education into operations. We are under the 15% rule that you're allowed to transfer, but we do transfer many months about $405,000 over, because you're only getting your tax draws in June, July time frame, and then November, December time frame. Somewhere in there, you're getting your property tax draws. That's a good question. All right, talking about the education fund, again, this is how do we get the money? How do we budget and get the money in there? And so you'll see the middle there, it shows the student enrollment, and the arrow going into the bucket is honestly how many kids you have on count day is how much you're going to be based off of your basic grant, your state tuition. So if your enrollment is up, you'll receive more money. If your enrollment's down, you'll receive less money. And I'm going to show you kind of how we do the worksheet to plan that, because budgeting really is just really good estimates at this time. You're just estimating what you think things are going to be. Count date isn't until October 1st for the fall, and then it's February 3rd in the spring. And so you also add into that not just your ADM, which is called average daily membership, but you've got vocational CTE student count, special education student count, academic performance grant, and non-English speaking grant. And you'll see there all the dates where that comes through. We are going to put this on the website, so for any of the community, or if you want to go back and review this, it will be there. But all of these factors come into play on exactly how much you're going to get in basic grant tuition from the state. Not local property taxes, but from your state. So the amount of kids you have fills your bucket in education. And then I guess to add further, what programs they are in and whether they qualify for special education or the academic performance grant also fills your bucket with money. So if you look at our ADM, this is kind of to tell you how we fund that, and it goes back to 2016 and shows you, where we are. It's been pretty steady, slight decline here in the last couple of years, and by slight I mean very slight. But on average, this would be a pretty stable enrollment. It's not an increasing one, but a pretty stable one. Now, kindergarten enrollment, we had a really nice class last year. We had one of the highest since almost 9 to 10 years. Hoping that we can keep that up, but as you see, trending nicely up, and what that means is if you can get them here, have them successful as a young student, they typically will stay with you for the most part until they, things can happen where jobs can change, things can happen as they get older. But for the most part, you typically have kids successful in the early grades. They're going to stay with you. I think another key for Marion Community Schools is a very strong preschool program. And then on top of that, some of the best early literacy and iRead scores last year. You're trending in a direction where success is happening at what would be the lower level, and that should just trend right on up. That's the hope. So I think we're headed in a really good direction, and it's really nice to have solid numbers in your kindergarten.
It would be interesting to see where that page there lines up with our current grades, like our 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all through like 8th grade, to see where our class sizes differ as far as have we held those kids, have we actually gained some, have we lost some. I know some years we feel like we have a drop in our enrollment, but it's just that we had a really big senior class that graduated, and the birth rate for the year behind them was just less. And so sometimes those statistics alter what the vision is as far as you haven't done as well and people have left the system, and that's not always the case. So it would be interesting to look and see how like 2018 we had a small enrollment for kindergarten. So it'd be interesting to see how the class of whatever that would be, 2032, lines up with that or whatever. And
it typically runs that way. It's a great point to make, is then you might have that one low group.
Yeah.
And that's something you have to really think about also with your facilities is if you're starting to bring in these larger classes, right. Now you're thinking, well, your overall enrollment might be pretty stable, but if you look, you see, we have this coming. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So this is it's hard to read, but this is just an example of the state tuition support payment. So this is literally what the sheet looks like when they give it to us. And I know you can't see it very well, but on the far left, it has the payment dates, and then it just shows what our payments are going to be. So for instance, and it breaks it down through the basic grant in the next column on the far left, so the second column as it goes across, it's basic grant, the academic performance grant, special education, CTE, non-English speaking, and then it gives a funding adjustment, basically gives you your total payment over here. And so our total payments, just so you have an idea of what they're estimating us, is per month about $2,799,851 per month in basic grant state tuition. So that funds our education, and we get that every month. Now, it will be adjusted once we get our October 1 number in. It'll either be decreased or increased based off of that. But that's pretty balanced out, saying we're going to get that, and that came in over the summer. And that's based off of last February's count. And then here it's also showing you, based off of that, this is the bottom half of that sheet. And what I really want to show you here is that we are receiving a per student increase of about $239 per student this year over last year. So we're receiving $8,655.85 per student. So if you take that number and you want to take it home and say, okay, what happens if we have 3,500 students. That's pretty quick math right there. And you can figure out what your basic tuition will be. And so that's how that works. Now, this is a worksheet that we also do. Every school district across the state is able to access this worksheet, and you plug in your number of what you think the students will be. So I plugged in over in the middle column on the very bottom down here where the cursor is. I plugged in 3,400 students. And then at the top it shows that the arrow next to it shows that even with 3,400 students, which would be 33.5 less students, we would be up $601,000 based off of the increase in basic grant that they're going to give this year. However, when you filter that through all the other programs, it actually lowers to $547,810, which is circled down there in the bottom with the 3 arrows. So that would be what we would consider new money. So that new money is money you didn't have last year that's increased, and that would help you for a lot of different reasons. One, it will help you figure out, okay, where of that is curricular materials? Where is that of money that would be able to be bargained for salaries increases for both certified and non-certified staff? That's kind of how you would start that rough math to figure out what your new money is.
And that $600,000 is still only 17% of the $3.5 million we lose from circuit breakers.
Yes. Yeah.
Just reminders.
Yeah.
Al and I worked on this earlier, so he would be the positive that I could bounce this off of. Education fund balance, it kind of shows you where this is going. I apologize that for some reason the charts would not let me do it in like dollars and cents and just put it in regular numbers. But you can see there that since 2019, your education fund balance has increased. So it was a good question by the board earlier. Where are we standing with our cash reserves, our fund balance? And you can see that we have been about 14 million in cash balance. So if you take that versus a $47 million budget, and you do the math, you can get your percentage of how much cash balance you have. And that's something that I know I've only been here for a short time, but something for the board to consider. Maybe you've done it before and I just don't know. But there's always the thought of having a number that you would like to see your cash balance be at, a percentage. It's also nice to be able to tell your association, hey, we plan to keep this percentage of money in cash reserves. It's a goal that we want. So, for example, you could say we want to have at least 12 to 15% in our cash fund, or in a cash balance.
Is there a state statute of how much we can't go past?
There is not a state statute, but I will say this: they will start to say things like you're not a bank, and
Can't keep that much.
and your teachers association might say when you're up in the 20 million range, hey, when are we going to give some of that money over here?
This is where I hear it. Like, I know we've been talking about the Teachers Association. They've been very patient. It's not necessarily, it's sometimes legislators who are like,
I just like picking up
do you need money? Yeah. I just wanted to clarify.
No, Stephanie and I are great. But no, there is, legislators will pick on you and say, if they find out, if somebody locally says, hey, look at my local school district. But I'm not saying you'll ever have that. I know this board well enough that they wouldn't. But the one thing I would always push back on, if they came back and said, we have $14 million, why don't you lower that? I would push back and say, we also lose $3.5 million a year in circuit breaker.
Yeah.
So you have a good position when you come to those arguments. Assessed value. This is a tough one, but it's the AV, and this is not popular for any homeowner because you find out when your assessed value goes up, that doesn't always mean that your taxes are going to go down by any means. But assessed value and your property taxes are what fill your operation or debt service bucket. And the amount impacts the tax rate for both of those on what your assessed value is. We're going to talk about the historical assessed value in just a second. But the AV is not usually going to be finalized. I made a call to the county auditor. Very, very good call. They're They're not there yet. They have not released the AV yet. And that's for everybody. I mean, we're not just talking about schools. We're talking about the city government, the county government. Everybody's waiting to see what that assessed value is. So in this budget that we've built, it is an estimate of what our assessed value might be. And we base that off of the last several years and to see what we get. And we have to just go off the trend. But if you look at a historical assessed value, pretty stagnant and pretty stable for several years there, and then it just jumps. In the last few years, we've had an increase in assessed value. Now, we don't anticipate seeing an increase like that anymore. I believe the new governor has made it very clear that there has to be, especially with Sit and Roll Act 1, there has to be some change in that. So I still am hearing 10% increases in some counties. I'm also hearing a little reduction in other counties, but it's not the massive increase we saw pretty much across the board for the last couple of years in assessed value. That assessed value, depending on where it is, it's really what you can utilize to keep your tax rate stable. So we kind of talked about how they're calculated, but your debt service fund, there's no set maximum amount by law, but we're really just trying to raise enough to cover our required debt payments. We can include 15% extra for a cash balance in our debt service if we want. In operations, it is limited by the maximum levy, and that means it's capped on how much you can raise. And that is based off of what's called the MLGQ. And just to understand, a few years ago, they put a 4% cap on the MLGQ for operations fund, and that remains in place for us at this time, so we can't go beyond that 4%. So you're going to see a very similar operations fund in layman's terms than what we've had in the last few years. Not a big increase. This is the one thing that we all have to keep working on, and that is that the impact on Marion Community Schools through Senate and Rolled Act 1. It's going to keep that property tax growth cap at 4%. Our levy could have grown by about 5.5%, but the cap's going to leave it at 4%. So if we didn't have that cap, we actually would have seen a tax levy growth. What does that mean? Less revenue. It's just what it is. It's a lot of what you'll hear. Less revenue, less money coming in. Basically, remember what was said by our governor, do more with less. And we're all figuring out how to do more with less. No change in how the debt service fund is calculated this time.
This would be a good point for me to bring up the big thanks to Mayor Morrell, who brought up in a post just 24 hours ago how the state is continuing to deplete our opportunity to raise funds for the city. The city itself cannot sustain itself anymore because of the Senate Bill 1 and all of the things that they passed in there. The city of Marion now is starting to get a taste of what we've been dealing with our property tax situation. And I know I say about this a lot through here every single meeting, but I'm going to continue to do so because it's not a Republican-Democrat thing in a sense of that. This affects all of us. The city of Marion is not going to be able to pay for the things that you guys enjoy as a community, is that you have to have your police, your fire, your street, everything. The mayor himself, which is a Republican mayor, pointed it out that they continue to take away funds that cities can raise for them, and that trickles to us, and that's going to affect us as well. So whether you're Republican or Democrat, you have got to be reaching out and talking to your friends and saying, hey, we got to get a hold of people and let them know we can't continue this. You can't, and it's cities like Marion and cities like Marion that are getting hurt the most. The cities with huge property taxes and have huge wealth, they're not getting hit as bad. But it's places like Marion, but even the county schools. I believe Mrs. Sinowell posted on one of their posts earlier today that they're going to lose $2 million or $1.5 million in their property tax levy too. So this isn't a Marion thing, or an Oak Hill thing, or whatever. This affects all of us in the state of Indiana. And I'm just going to start speaking out at it more, especially now that these are being broadcast live. And I'm hoping people will start to get on and listen, because if you're not listening, you think what $3.5 million of funding for your school system is going to have to cut. And we're not going to have a choice, because we can't run a debt, and we have a rainy day fund, But like you said, that's one day. That's one year. That's not going to recycle itself every single year. So the only way that changes, the only way that Mayor Morrell is going to continue to do the things he wants to do for the city that you guys as a community have supported and want him to do, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is if you get a hold of these people and the Republicans that have the supermajority in the state of Indiana start to realize they have to fund us as a city and as a school system, or else we will not be here.
It's a great segue into tax rates. Alan and I worked on this really hard last night.
We really did not talk once about
You pulled that off really well. You weren't as passionate last night, but that worked really well. But here are your tax rates. Eastbrook is about 87 cents. Madison Grant at 92. You'll see Mrs. Cinewall. These are last year. $1.43. This is per $100 of assessed tax. Marion's at $1.09, and Oak Hill is at $1.25. So this just gives you an example in your county of where your tax rate sits. I think this is really good for any taxpayer to be able to see kind of the breakdown of the schools. Capital project plans. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but we are required to do a capital project plan for our budget. We have to do a 3-year plan. Year 1's the focus. 2 and 3 can be adjusted as needed. They're not locked in. They do have flexibility because with capital projects, things can break that you didn't anticipate. Different needs could have. There's a lot of weather impact on a lot of our parking areas and different things that you get flexibility to move that money around. But you have to include every expenditure over $10,000 that you plan to purchase. And then you've got to look at all your capital assets and anything like that. So it's a transparency piece. It will be posted on our website. But it looks a lot like this. And it's really hard to see because it's very small. But it just lists out all the different items, all the different things that we plan to do. And I will have this on the website. I will also give you guys hard copies if you want them. But this will be submitted to the state. It has to be on our website for any public that want to look at it, but I'm just giving you an example. It's actually longer than this. I only wanted to go 2 slides because I didn't want to spend a ton of time on this. But we do have to have a plan for our capital projects. Same thing with bus replacement. This is a 5-year plan. The state requires us to find a way to show our public how we plan to work on replacing our buses as they age. Transportation is very important. The safety of students is very important. You can keep buses past 12 years. They just have to be inspected twice rather than once. We're trying not to keep them longer than that. We're trying to rotate them out. But again, buses now after 2020 have skyrocketed. And, just ask Mr. Tinker, it's over $10,000 just to put air conditioning on a bus. So a lot of times we sweat it out because the $10,000, if we save $10,000 for each one of our buses, we might be able to get another bus on the ones that we purchased. But it looks like this. I'm sorry, but until you submit it, it still has that little watermark on there. It's hard to see. We list all of our buses. We list the company, whether they're an International, Thomas, a Bluebird, what class they are, whether they're C, whether they're an A, which is activity type, or whether they're a 78 passenger, 84, 48, whether they have a lift, if they're special education. We have to list them all. And then you'll see the years over there, the 5 years. We list which ones financially we plan to replace, starting with the oldest. And that's what your bus replacement plan looks like.
Is that on that list, are there buses that we're leasing?
We do not have any leased buses at this time. We own them all.
Okay, good.
All right, finally, I've warned you guys out. This is the proposed budget, which we will have to ask for permission to advertise. Now, this doesn't mean we've adopted it. You will not adopt the budget until October 14th. We will have a budget hearing for the public prior to that in September, and those will be posted when those are going to happen. This allows us to advertise the budget, which means we're allowed to put it on our website, and we post it on Gateway for the state. We no longer have to post in the newspaper. That went by the wayside a few years ago. So this is for transparency for our public. But our budget remains the same in rainy day. We are authorizing $400,000 to be used out of rainy day. Now that can be increased through a board resolution at any time, but we just like to keep that authorization at $400,000. Doesn't mean we're going to use it. Just means we have the authority to spend that amount. Debt service is at $5,118,881. You can see the levy next to it. You can also see the tax rate for debt service is about 39 cents. Education, we're looking at $29,729,950. And operations, we're looking at $12 million. This budget and the levy there is next to that at $9,400,000. Total budget's 47, 248, 631, and your tax rates are about 110. So you've been running 109, 110. Now, what you advertise and what you actually adopt will be different because this will get submitted to the state and they will tell us, thank you, we're going to cut this, cut this, cut this. This is your actual budget. And that'll come back in a 1782 notice. We'll have opportunity to respond before it's finalized. So your tax rate might just be 109 again. It may be very similar. It should be.
If I may, Kyle, where did you get the $400,000 figure from for the rainy day? That's based off of what?
We have always just appropriated $400,000 for the ability to use without having to go and do an additional appropriations resolution. So instead of saying, hey, we're going to appropriate $3 million, it's just a very good protection for one to say, yeah, we have the authority to spend $400,000. You would still do a resolution to do that. But to go beyond that, you would ask for additional appropriations, which then you would send down to the state, get approval to do that. Rather than just it's kind of a protection.
But the $400,000 isn't a number that has been given us by the state. That is a number that a board at some point has said, we are giving them permission to spend up to that without having to.
The hard part with budgets, especially in school, is I'll use myself, when I was a building principal, I didn't really think about it in this way. I just thought, well, that means I got $400,000 in new money. No, it's authority to spend and what you really have are two different things. So your budget is what you have the authority to spend.
Sure.
Now, we don't have to spend all that. Where a lot of times if we don't want to not spend a bunch of it, and then I get reduced the next year.
Right.
But you're just talking about what we have the authority to spend.
Is there a, for that resolution, I don't remember when we did it, is there a due date of when we would renew it?
You can do the resolution for rainy day at any time.
But it just
I feel like we must have because it was 300,000 when we started, wasn't it? Like I didn't remember.
I believe we had moved it from 300,000 to 400,000 because of some of our cash flow wasn't working well with waiting for grants to come in throughout the year, and that 400,000 gave us the amount that we felt comfortable that we could roll back and forth as we needed without having to struggle with making payroll and some of those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sometime recently, we have talked about increasing the tax rate, and there are rules about like when we would have to, I don't know, have a public hearing, like if we were closer in the Miss Sinawal range or whatever. Like,
and if you're going to do, anytime you do additional appropriations, it has to be approved by the state. And so there's a process, and it can be done pretty quickly, but you've got to send it down there. First of all, you have to have the ability to show you have cash to cover those additional appropriations. So there's a process that they have to say, yes, you do have the funds for us to give you more authority to spend. And so the state gives us that authority. And then, it's done by an action here, and additional appropriations are very common. You'll do it when you do bonds. So when you do your hearings for your bonds, there'll actually be an additional appropriations piece in that. And it's just saying that you're going to raise. So if you bond right now, for instance, we have capacity to bond and without raising the tax rate.
Right.
And so that's something that has been a strategy. The former CFO did a nice job of planning that strategy out to where as debt rolls off, you can maintain your payments and maintain your tax rate, even in adding on new debt, so that you just kind of balance that out. So you're getting new money to help offset again those circuit breaker losses. So that's you guys have done a great job of doing that so far. But if you let that debt roll off and you just say we're not going to replace it, then your tax rate will drop. However, that doesn't mean that another government agency or district wouldn't pick up that and bond, which would leave the tax rate the same for the homeowner. They would see the decrease.
Yeah.
Someone else can pick up that
Sure.
capacity.
So we want to keep it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but like if we decided that there were giant projects that we needed to, like if we wanted, like yes, I understand what you're saying, that we still have space in the current tax rate, but like ultimately we could have discussions about perhaps
Yes, you would trigger
additional bonds
and you would
trigger a higher.
there's trigger different steps in that where
Public hearings and
some would be without any remonstrance or a petition.
Right.
Some would trigger a remonstrance or a petition, and then the largest thing you can do to raise your tax rate is to go to a referendum.
But what would our budget look like with the same tax rate as Mrs. Sinowatt 1.4?
Well,
I mean,
when you think about, I look at it this way, look at the pool of taxpayers in your area versus the pool of taxpayers in their area, and you're gonna use that rate. If you have more taxpayers, then you're gonna generate more revenue.
Right, but that's my question is, how many $1 million are we talking with the tax rate that would be equal to that?
I'd have to do some work on
I mean,
that
are we
one.
talking 3 or 4, or are we talking like 6 or 8?
If you raise, where you're at right now, if you raised that tax rate 25 to 30 cents, you'd be raising considerable revenue.
Because there comes a point where that's the only way we have to raise revenue at this point, or to offset the fact, number one, that we're losing a circuit breaker, but Senate Bill 1 continues to then take it other ways. So I appreciate us keeping tax rate low in the sense that I'm a taxpayer too, but there comes a point if we want to have the quality things. Dr. Hart sat in here and talked about we want to have a quality this, when we want to open up this and do it as a quality level. We can't do that where we're at. So there's going to come a point in time where that 1.1 is going to have to go to 1.2 or 1.3 or 1.4 even. I mean, other places even in the county currently are at those rates, so it's not unheard of. Their citizens are still making it there and doing okay. So I do think that the board is going to have to start to look at some of that kind of stuff to try and make those decisions to help offset some of our budgeting.
And we can definitely take a look. There are some ways that we could get some board work and time to work on and bring some people in to look at our tax rate, do some historical data, and give you the exact number you need to be able to make a quality decision on where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I think there's some great groups out there that's what they specialize in.
Yeah.
And they would come in and give you a report and let you know down to the penny what you would raise on a 25-cent tax rate hike.
Because we have a lot of projects that are going to need done in the next 3 to 5 years. We've got a lot of projects
kind of
that need done
barreling
in the
towards
next
us a
1
little
to 2
bit. Yeah,
years.
yeah.
We got a lot of projects, let's be honest, that needed done 3 to 5 years ago.
Yeah.
While we have done a great job maintaining buildings that are very old. 100 years, we have building 100 years old. 100 years old! Think of what was happening 100 years ago. And we have upgraded that building enough to work through it, and the kids learn, and they're doing well in there, but we've got to be real with ourselves. We have got to find a way to do revenue, and if that's what we have to do at this point, I know it's not a popular thing to sit up here as a board member that gets voted in and voted out or whatever in office. It's always tricky to talk to the public about raising taxes, but when all comes to what we're doing, which is trying to educate our children, we're going to have to look at that and have that discussion. So I really would challenge you to try and maybe get some initial stuff together, some initial ideas and some numbers, and whether we need to have an open work session or something to start brainstorming those ideas. In the meantime, we as a board need to start looking and pulling through with your guys' help as well, what projects are on that horizon and what kind of money we're looking at. and I don't mean to just throw out numbers, but I would guess $50 to $80 million of work that needs to be done fairly soon is not out of the realm of possibility of stuff that's going to need to be done. So I know it's scary. It's scary to think about as a public. It's scary to think about as a school system. But we've got to continue to keep up on things and not let things get behind. I do feel like we have done a good job with an aging system, aging buildings, on keeping up on them, but that's not going to just continue to happen forever without the help of the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Yep. Good point. Here's a comparison for you. I'm getting close to wrapping up, I promise. So you got 25 on the second column there from the left, and then you got 26. You will see a difference of less than about our budget today is $477,000 lower than it was last year. Some of that is attributed to debt service payments that have been made, which has lowered, obviously, your overall debt service. A lot of that's there, but we had inside of that, we have made some adjustments to like bus purchases and different things. But remember, we're just going on the thought process that we are to reduce $3 million. And that $3 million is from Senate Bill 1, not the circuit breaker.
Right.
So we're going to say $3.5 million for circuit breaker. We want to be very clear that that has nothing to do with the next 3 years that we have to come up with budget reduction because of Senate Enrolled Act, or what is called Senate Bill 1, which is supposed to have so much with the homestead deductions and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So
$7 billion.
now I want to let you know how we advertise. So you're getting ready to make an action after this big, long presentation. You have to make an action of whether we're going to post our budget. But what we do is we post it on Gateway for all taxpayers. It'll be posted on the Marion Community website. No newspaper publication is needed anymore. And on the website, we will also have the capital projects plan, the bus replacement plan, and the link to the DLGF Gateway Form 3, which has all of what you've received here and all the funds, the fund totals. But public access to any of the budget items are available on budget notices there on Gateway. That will be linked on the website as well. That's it.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you. Do we, Ms. Rose, do we have any members of the public who are here to speak on the budget? Thank you. And Superintendent Lockwood, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, President Salamo, I recommend that the board approve with one motion and one vote to give permission to advertise the 2026 budget.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other board comments or comment? Okay, we can have the roll.
Mr. Delgado.
Aye.
Mrs. Gall.
Aye.
Mr. Griffin.
Aye.
Mr. Beck.
Aye.
Ms. Salamo.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 25-165, real property transaction, Boys and Girls Club. No members of the public to speak? Okay. Superintendent Lockwood, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, President Salamo, I recommend that the board approve with one motion and one vote the authorization to acquire the Boys and Girls Club building.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Awesome. Any further discussion? Grateful for those of you who came and talked this out last week. We can have the roll.
Okay. Mr. Delgado.
Aye.
Mrs. Gall.
Aye.
Mr. Griffin.
Aye.
Mr. Beck.
Aye.
Ms. Salamo.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Any public comments at all?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. Marion Teachers Association?
I'm gonna make it a little lighter than you. I just want to
I
say.
just heard that. I know.
Yeah.
I just want to say how much of the welcome back breakfast and the swag was by the entire staff, as well as having time to just interact with each other. I think that made a big difference in the positive start that I have seen and heard about all over the district. So thank you.
That's awesome. Superintendent comments.
Yes, I have a couple, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I wanted to give you guys an update. Teal sent, Keenan, our food service director, sent Mr. Mealy and I an update of the summer summer feeding program that we have with our summer meal boxes especially. So I'm just gonna read part of the email. It says, "Good morning, I have final numbers for our summer meal box program. We provided 46,475 breakfasts and 46,475 lunches for a grand total of 92,950 meals this past summer." So she said absolutely overall, she believes it was a huge success. She wanted to give a shout out to Clark Food Systems. They were an absolutely wonderful partner out of Anderson. They worked through everything that we needed to work through on our food delivery to the homes. I think some of the comments that I heard, it was like Amazon. They text them when they were 10 houses away. They text them when they dropped off at the front door. They text them pictures of their package in front of their house. And you know, the cool thing about it is it came refrigerated packed. So we had some days it was like 98 plus degrees out. So we just had a fantastic, I guess, summer feeding program for our first one to do mail home. I think if one thing we would add, I think we did have some parents that had a little bit of reservation and did not want to take food away from other families. We had enough to feed everybody here that signed up for it. So we encourage families as we do this again next year, especially since we have a summer underneath our belt, please sign up. I know that the food, people were impressed with it. There was good food in with it, and it was all individually packaged, so there was really no extra work. So if you have multiple kids, it was individually packaged, the grapes and the carrots and everything to just pull it out so the kids could get their own and do their own. So I just heard so much positive feedback, and I know that Teal did too. So
Was that grant funded?
Fantastic.
it was. She said the good news is she can renew the contract for up to 4 years. So
And what was that grant? Or who was that
it was a
from?
grant that Teal went after the state decided they were not going to do the summer feeding program that they normally with the cards that they had normally done. The state of Indiana did not go after that grant. So Teal then started looking for summer feeding programs that she could get some money from, and was granted this, and we were allowed to do one where they would actually just deliver the food right to the homes of our students.
And you don't know who that grant was from?
I cannot remember off the top of my head, and I can get that for you, but I can't remember the name of
I would
that
love to
particular
get something
grant.
together, a card from us, because it was amazingly appreciated. And I think that it's those kinds of things that happen in the world that kind of make you feel like, all right, there are people out there that care. Because if you think serving 90,000 meals didn't cost somebody a lot of money, you've forgotten what it costs to buy food. And it wasn't just carrots and grapes. I mean, we were talking Pop-Tarts and granola bars and
True Moo milk, that's what some people were impressed with, just even the brands and stuff that they had.
was incredible. My boys loved it showing up because it was just another bit of food that was different than what we have every day than they had through the summer. So it was kind of a fun waiting for Amazon to come. I mean, it sounds silly, but when we found out that we weren't, but because we did the same thing, we didn't sign up initially because we didn't want to take it away from families that could have used it. But that was not how that system was set up. In fact, my understanding was the more people we had that signed up, the easier it was for that company because they grouped things together and packaged the food and everything together anyway.
Absolutely, and I think if I'm remembering right, we served a little over 1,200 families.
That's awesome.
Is what we served throughout the summer. So, and we have a lot more we learned. I know Tia learned a lot. She did a fantastic job. I can't sing her praises enough for her taking this on. And I can remember her coming to Mr. Mealy and I and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. And we were just like, go for it. Let's just go through it. Let's jump in with both feet and see what happens. And she was a more than willing participant, but she always is to do what's best for our students. So I just greatly, greatly appreciate her and her team and the work that they did in getting this done. So it was fabulous. I do have to give them a shout out to her high school cafeteria staff, are the ones that did breakfast for over 700 employees the first teacher day that we had, and that was all of our employees, all of our certified and non-certified employees, and it was a fantastic morning and a time for people to get together and just talk about their summer and see each other again. And it was a lot of fun to watch people interact with one another, and a lot of people that get to interact not very often because they're teaching in other buildings or they haven't seen each other. People move to other buildings, so that was a great day there too. So, but I wanted to come back with a highlight of the meals and all of that. I do want to introduce a new employee that I think is still back there. She's patiently waited through the whole board meeting, one of the longest ones we've had in a while. So
I know. I'm sorry, Jenny.
This kind of goes along with our theme for the year, and I know I'm going to pick on Mr. Delgado because he has his shirt on. We did give everybody a shirt that says One Marion, standing for one community, one vision, giant impact. One thing that we decided to do this year is to take some of our title grant money and create a position that is a parent kind of liaison position. And for us, it's that building of one community and bringing our families together and giving our families a voice within our system, that they have a trusted face that is a parent just like them, that can kind of go in and out of all of our buildings and help our families that are here and our new families coming in. So I do want to introduce Jenny Hardwick. She was just hired this evening officially.
Finally.
Jenny, since we are live streaming, stand up so those people that may not know who you are will be able to see who this is. And that's part of the introduction for her. I know that the past couple of days, I think she has spoken with every building principal. She has been in every building. She has been gathering a list of new families coming to Marion Community Schools so that she can reach out and help give them some ways that they can maneuver through. So we do ask our parents to, if you have any questions about anything, you can reach Jenny. She will be around the entire corporation. I think she has several landing places in several different buildings that she's worked out with principals, because we do want her to be visible, and we do want her to help us bridge that gap between our school and our families to help build that one community, one vision with a giant impact, which will greatly be beneficial to our kids and families. So we're very excited to have her on board, and I did want to give a chance to just say her name out loud so that we can have it recorded and that people would know who that person is. So, and that's what I have for this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
She's finally being formally recognized for the things she's been doing for 100 years.
Yes, for a very, very long time. And I do need to say thank you to all the teachers for the way that you started school and the dedication that you've given to our students and what you have done in just collaborating with one another. All the hours and all the days and hard work that you put in for the weeks before school even started was unbelievable. I wish I had a tally of how many hours our teachers and our principals gave preparing for our kids coming to school. You can really tell it from this past week. So kudos to you guys. We are moving in some great directions, and I know that we're going to do some great things, and couldn't be prouder to work with a group of people that I do. So yeah.
Good deal. Thank you. Board comments.
I'm going to start. So, Mrs. Hardwick, congratulations. There's no better person for that job, in my opinion. And thank you, because you're a big part of the reason why I'm in this seat. So, congratulations and thank you very much. Kyle, thanks for all that. As a new board member, it was easy to understand, easy to follow. Now I just have to process it over the next, however long. Very informative. I appreciate that. Mrs. Lockwood, I got to tell you, thank you for the welcome back breakfast. I think it was a huge success, as you mentioned. I felt the camaraderie, the positive energy with all the staff there. It felt really good. I will say, Alan kindly waited on me to get my breakfast, and then as I stepped out, I told him I thought I knew a lot of the staff. Maybe I don't know as many as I thought. So he and I were kind of standing there looking at the cafeteria, and I was like, I'm in high school again. So I was like, Alan, find us empty seat. So, but that day was awesome, and seeing all the pictures on Facebook of all the teachers and all the staff in their classrooms creating camaraderie and receiving the kids, it's just the energy is just so infectious and positive, and I couldn't be happier about the way the school year has started. And I'm ready for fall sports, cooler weather. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Jenny. Yeah, no better person. She's been around for a very long time, so I'm glad that you're finally here. So welcome. And thank you, Kyle, for that. We'll get a copy of that PowerPoint because after a certain time, I'm ready for bed. No, it was good information. I like that. So, but welcome back, teachers. Just been praying for a very good, safe school year. So I'm excited. Marion Community Schools is probably the best school in the nation. So we're ready, and we're ready, board, right?
I as well would like to thank all the teachers for their enthusiasm for starting out for a great year again. And I would also like to bring to light the custodians, the amazing work and maintenance that they do over the summer to make our schools look as good as they do for as old as they are. It's amazing what they do, and I'd just like to make sure that they get recognized as well.
Absolutely.
I also wanted to thank Mr. Tinker. Yeah, don't make yourself scarce. This is my first time seeing you, so great job. I had one phone call from a parent, and then I didn't have any more calls, so you must have done your job. So greatly appreciated. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Mrs. Hardwick, again, we couldn't give you back pay for the years of service.
I know. She's been doing this job for
We've
years.
at least been able to get you moving forward on that, so we appreciate the time that you put in already, but look forward to the time moving forward. Again, Kyle, thank you for the presentation. Again, those are sometimes just dreadful to go through, but it's important to see and important to understand, and you did it in a way that made it easier for us to do so. Again, Mr. Tinker, I know it was not the greatest thing right out of the gate, but I appreciate you holding on to the reins and taking control of it and working through it and allowing others to kind of help work through it with you, because it's a team effort, and we want you to know we're here to be on that team with you, not on the other side of it. So thank you, Mr. Tinker. Gabe hit it on the nail on the head. I live right between Justice and Kendall, so in my better days, I used to be able to hit a golf ball to both of those schools, but it's a little further for me now. But the joy and excitement that I hear on the playgrounds and kids in the morning and kids leaving and stuff is just so amazing, and I love seeing it when I drive by and hearing it. The breakfast that we had the pleasure of sharing with a lot of the teachers and staff, the excitement that they had the day before. I mean, it was like Christmas morning, literally, or Christmas Eve, seeing their excitement, and I think giving them that time to kind of share with each other, especially at the breakfast and before, I really do think was a huge positive start, and I think we want to make sure to continue that kind of thing, because I think they so many of them reached out and said how much they did appreciate the chance to be able to honestly see a lot of each other that they don't even get the time to spend to say hi and give a hug and say, hey, where you at, and that kind of stuff. But the excitement has been really incredible across the board. I know my boy is a freshman now, and he has had a great time, and he's loved it, and his teachers have been terrific, and the staff and everything. So great start to a good year. Looking forward to the rest of it.
Sorry, one more thing. Big shout out to Teal. I haven't seen her in a while, but wow, that's just awesome, and I'm so glad about that.
I just realized, Mr. Tinker, you're still here, so I apologize.
The podium really does.
Don't worry.
I thought you had, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Might as well then roll. Thank you as well.
He's like hiding
I was waiting to
behind.
see if Mrs. Hardwick was back here, because I just didn't know if she was.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, everyone. Y'all took all my comments, so very, very grateful for everyone's work. So we will adjourn if there's no further business. The next scheduled meeting is August 26th at 6:30 right here in the boardroom. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.